Hey everyone, and welcome to our latest episode of Non Pro in the Know. We're here today with Cody and Erin Hanson. We're so excited to have them on the podcast. I've gotten to know them a little bit recently, and they were one of the people I really wanted to bring on and introduce all of our cow horse fans to. So, welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having
Yeah,
us.
thank you.
Absolutely, it's an honor to have you here. I appreciate you agreeing to be put on the spotlight. I know it's not comfortable, but you guys are going to do great.
Thank you. We're excited. Should
Absolutely.
be fun.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely. So we're here at Hanson Performance Horses headquarters in Melba, Idaho, and man, you guys have put some work into building this facility. I'm super impressed. I know that it's a new process and a new facility, and I'd love to hear about how that's gone for you.
A lot of work.
It has been a lot of work. It's been a slow process, but really rewarding. And we feel really blessed that we have the opportunity to build this place and that we have the, support from my mom to kind of make our dreams a reality. Because this is something that her and I have talked about for a very long time. And the fact that it's here and it's ours is really special. So it's been a long time coming, but we're really excited.
Yeah, it's been a fun team
Yeah.
experience building this place, and
Yeah.
a lot of meetings and a lot of drawings and a lot of changing our mind and
Yep.
it's
Doing things
turned
the wrong way and then redoing them.
yeah, it's turned into this, and
Yeah.
of course we still have more to go, but it's ours, and
Mhm.
it's pretty fun to share it with everybody and
Yeah.
create new memories here. So
Well, it's cool to see that you guys, I mean, you guys are young, a young couple within the industry, and for you to have this great facility as your own at such an early phase of your life, like that's incredible.
Yeah.
You don't see that every day,
Yeah.
and what an accomplishment. You guys should really be proud of that.
Yeah. We
And
feel
when
very
pretty lucky.
blessed. I think
Yeah.
it's, that more than anything. I mean, we've worked hard, but we've also, had people support us and like my mom being a really big one of those that has believed in us from the beginning. And so we feel very, very blessed to be in this position. So
absolutely, it's
yeah.
amazing what the support of good family and good clients and good friends can,
Yeah.
yeah, it
That's
can.
what it's all about, because we don't win or lose on our own. Like, it's all a team effort, and there's always people behind you backing you through the good and bad. And so
You
that
can't
is
do it.
really all you have at the end of the day. That and the horses, like you have to lean on the people closest to you. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, you can't do it without the people around you.
No.
Period. The farriers, the vets, the owners,
Yeah.
Ellie, of course,
Right.
my
Yeah.
wife. You can't do it
Non-pros. Yeah.
without everybody.
Yep.
So
For sure.
it's not a single sport.
No.
No, and I mean, while our open riders are putting in the work and the training, it is good to mention like all those people that support the process. It's,
Yeah.
Yeah,
sometimes the open riders get the spotlight, but it's such a group
Yes.
project.
yeah.
Absolutely. There's so much that goes into just one horse. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
But that's probably the most fun about what we do is that you have relations, and
Yeah.
I believe that relations are everything, and you got to take care of them. And um, we've got to meet a lot of incredible people in the process and helping each other out and doing favors for each other and having fun while doing it. That's what it's about. So
Absolutely.
winning comes and goes, but it's the in between, the day to day and enjoying it, that is the most important. So
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
It's funny. You'll be flying high and then all of a sudden you get a reality check.
hmm
And yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I think exactly what you're talking about, having that frame of mind through those downs is what gives you the ability to stay in it for the long haul.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially in the non-pro world, I feel like you sometimes see people are only in it for a couple of years and then they kind of disappear. And I can speak from experience about that third, fourth year. I was like, man, and then I just had to recommit my frame of mind and
Yeah.
get back in the saddle and keep going because it's not easy.
No.
I think everybody wants success and everybody wants to win, but you have to enjoy it because everybody wants to win. And
Yes.
Yeah.
you're competing against a lot of nice horses, a lot of great people, a lot of people that are dedicated. And if you don't enjoy the day to day, then you're probably going to get burnt out. Or if there's a lot of pressure on you to win, that can keep you from success also.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think winning's a byproduct of putting in hard work and doing the right thing for the horse. And
Yeah.
If you had the
Absolutely.
best run of that day, then you win. But
You kind
you
of have
might have
to
had
be
your best
okay.
run and somebody else had their best run and it was better than yours. But that's horse showing. You should still go home
Mm-hmm.
pretty darn happy that you maximized that horse
Yeah.
and did your job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and even to expand on that, I mean, you could be putting together your best run and something as simple as a stumble
Yeah.
could could knock you out of that top spot. Like,
For
At the end of the
sure.
day, they're horses.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So I mean, you can put as much pressure on yourself or that horse, but they are horses. They don't know that there's money added. They don't know that there's a judge there, and
They have bad days just like
you got to
us.
remind
Yeah.
yourself that they're just trying their best for us. So
absolutely. And I think that's a good horsemanship type frame of mind to carry through this
For
and
sure.
keep
For
you
sure.
honest and
Yeah.
making your priorities right.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Horse always has to come first.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Let's take a second and hear about your guys' backstories, kind of let everybody get to know you a little bit better. So, Erin, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Park City, Utah. So I actually moved there when I was around 2 years old and lived there through my junior or sophomore year of high school. So I did grow up having horses kind of always around. My mom did high school and college rodeo, and then by the time I was born, she had some off track thoroughbreds that she got really cheap and was determined to make into barrel horses. And I remember coming home from school one day and she had a black eye and was laying on the couch, and I was like,
My
oh my
gosh.
gosh, what happened to you? And she didn't tell me a whole lot, but she said that she was selling her thoroughbred, and I was like, okay, fair. And I think that was kind of a turning point for her, because she knew how much I loved it and wanted to get into it. She was like, okay, well, I don't really want to put my daughter on that. So around that time is when we started getting, more like quarter horses and, what we could find. And I started off doing 4-H. I had a half Arab, half quarter horse. I think we got him. I think we actually rescued him. And I did anything and everything, poles, barrels, all the things on him, and then kind of worked my way up and got another horse after that. And around the time I was 10 is when I was first exposed to reining.
Okay.
And so around that age is when I started competing in the reining, and I was still doing the 4-H a little bit as well. And I was definitely hooked on just the competitive aspect of the performance horse world. That's not to say I didn't have a lot of nerves around it. Like from a very young age, I would about make myself sick before I competed. Like I remember having to take Dramamine and my mom just being like, "You're working yourself up so much." And I'm like, "I know, I just care a lot." And I think that that's probably my biggest flaw. And I guess it can be a positive too, but I do care a lot. And I've always had that competitive spirit deep down within me. So yeah, I did the reining for, a long time, and that's what gave me the opportunity to actually get a scholarship to go to college at Oklahoma State. So I got a scholarship to ride on their equestrian team.
a full ride scholarship. Sorry.
And so the way that the equestrian teams works is there's a Western and English discipline. So I was on their Western team and did reining for 4 years. And that I think really helped me with competing, especially because that is a very unique way of doing things in college. When you're at a competition for those collegiate events, you're competing on the horses that are at your home turf. So if you're hosting, you're riding your horses. If you go somewhere, you're riding theirs. And you have 4 minutes to warm up your horse. So if you're going somewhere else, you have 4 minutes to warm up a horse that is new to you. And then you go compete on it and do a reining pattern. And mind you, this is not like the cream of the crop in terms of horses. They're all donated. So some of them can do lead changes, some of them stop, some of them not so much. Like there's quite a range. And I think having that experience really just made me focus on myself in the show pen and worry less about each of the individual horses I was on and just focusing more so on doing what I was there to do and knowing that this horse might not have the same skill level as this other one, but just kind of adjusting to each of them. So,
Wow.
yeah, that was a really fun experience. And I think it helped me a ton with showing and getting confident in showing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then after college, I moved to Dallas and just focused on my career for a while. And that was really difficult because I didn't have horses nearby. I wasn't riding. And so I lasted about a year and a half, 2 years before I decided that I wanted to move to Idaho to be closer to my mom and be able to get back into competing.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
and around that time is when she actually started getting into the cow horse. So she's who I can thank for now being hooked on this sport. She first got involved and was riding with Jason Day at the time, and he really helped her with like getting started in the sport and really enjoying it and being able to travel and compete. Um, and then I got hooked around 2018.
Okay.
So,
Well,
yeah.
I want to rewind a little bit. I have a
Yeah.
few questions about all of that. So,
Yeah.
when you made the trans, you're riding your quarter horse Arab cross in your
Yeah.
4-H days, which I think a lot of us got started in the 4-H days, right?
Yeah.
Um, when you transitioned into the reining, did you take that horse or did you get a new horse?
No, so the friends that we met that actually introduced us to the reining, they knew like my background and what I had done up until that point, and they were like, "You need to try this." And my mom was like, "Okay, well, I'm not gonna go buy her another horse.
Right.
Sorry." And the way that it worked then, kind of similar to the youth in the cow horse, like you could compete on another horse that you didn't own. So I competed on their mare. I think she was like 19 years old. She had just been there, done that, super reliable. But I mean, she was older and, needed maintenance and all of those things. And so we ended up leasing her from them. And then eventually we bought her. And that's kind of how I got my start. So they really get a lot of credit for that. And it's special. They've been family friends for a long time. And now they have a horse in training with Cody. So it's kind of like a full
Oh,
circle moment, which
I
is
love that.
special.
I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah, all those people throughout our lives that really help
Yeah.
establish the path for us and give us opportunities. That's so valuable.
Yes,
So
for
valuable.
sure.
And
For
there's a lot
sure.
of them.
Yeah,
There's a
there are
lot.
a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah.
So your 19-year-old mare, you're out there showing her in the reining, and how old were you again when you started showing in the reining?
I want to say 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so you had quite a few years in it before you went to college then.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I probably competed for about 8 years in the reining before going
Nice.
to college. Yeah.
So I'm assuming your 19-year-old mare didn't go with you through the whole process.
She did not know.
So when did you change out and get a new horse?
Yeah, so I think I was about 12 and I will never forget this. It was Christmas and we had opened all the presents and there was something still under the tree that almost looked like a magazine wrapped up and I didn't think anything of it. And my mom was like, "Go open that," after everything was already opened. And so I opened it and it was a horse's papers and a bunch of pictures and it was actually a horse that I was very familiar with. It was a friend's horse that she had been competing on for years, and I always loved him and thought he was just the coolest thing ever. And he was getting older and, had some issues and needed to be taken care of and maybe have a little less pressure on him. And my mom surprised me and
Wow.
bought him. And I mean, to this day still like I can't really believe that happened and she's just always believed in my crazy dreams and really supported me and I can't thank her enough for that because I wouldn't be where I am without
Right.
her.
Right.
And that horse is really what changed the reining for me because I was able to be competitive on him at a really young age. And so I think when I was 12, 13, I ended up in the top 10 in the youth 13 and under for the world and the
Wow.
NRHA.
That's amazing.
And so he really like gave me more opportunity and kind of elevated my showing and that was really really fun.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really great. So then is that the horse that you took to college with you?
So the way that it works within the equestrian collegiate community, you don't take a horse to college like you would in rodeo.
Oh, okay.
All of them are there and donated. So you kind of
Okay.
have a string of horses that everyone is taking care of simultaneously. And then we have practice or had practice 5 days a week. And each day we would ride a different horse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it was just like always on rotation.
So are those horses donated to the school program and then, I mean, do they go back to their original owners or do they get sold to support the program or?
A lot of times they'll stay there for a really long time, and then if they get to a point of being retired, I think the universities always call the owners first and say like, "Hey, do you want to take them back, turn them out on pasture?" But otherwise, a lot of them they'll keep and like kind of turn out, or coaches will take them for lesson horses for other things. Yeah, so
Right.
not a lot of like selling them though, because by that point they're older and they just need a good home,
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So then this process it just is a little overwhelming to me with you just show up and you get to watch the horse for 4 minutes. Is that what you said?
Yeah, you get to warm up the horse for 4 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
And you get to see the people, like if it's, we're going to TCU as an example and competing on their horses, you get to watch their riders ride the horse beforehand and you can kind of see some things. And then when you're getting ready to compete, that's when your 4 minutes starts.
So are you watching them ride them in the warm-up pen or are you watching them show them
In the warm-up pen.
in the warm-up pen?
Yep. And so you
Okay.
basically go head to head, like somebody from TCU and somebody from Oklahoma State is assigned the same horse. And somebody from Oklahoma State goes first. They mark a 70. Somebody from TCU marks a 69 on that horse. So the point goes to OSU in that instance.
Wow.
So that horse is being competed on, twice within an hour span. And it's like
That's
whoever comes out on top.
crazy.
It's
Yeah.
helped her out in life.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah. Talk
Yeah.
about learning how to work around a horse
Yeah.
and be agreeable with them in the show pen. Holy mackerel. I can't even imagine catch riding something like that with 4 minutes to go and on top of that, somebody else just showed that horse like what did they do while they were in the show pen that maybe
Yeah.
is gonna spill over into your run.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, what are the nerves like on, I mean, when you first started doing that, was that just like absolutely uncomfortable?
Very much so. Yeah. It was very foreign to me. And not that our sport is an individual sport, but when you're competing in an arena, it is. It's like it's just you out there, except for the herd where you have your turn back help. But yeah, there was definitely a different level of nerves around it, especially because you're competing for a team. It's not just about you and how you do. Like you want everyone on your team to succeed and win. And so if you have a bad run, like you don't necessarily just feel bad for you. You feel like you let, 40 girls down.
Right.
And that can be difficult, but it's also really special to be able to share that with people when you're in college. And some of my best friends to this day are from that time in my life. So there was definitely a lot of anxiety around it, especially like starting out, but I think I got more comfortable as time went on. So, yeah.
Wow. What
Yeah.
a what an incredibly beneficial experience for your
Yeah,
later life.
for sure. I feel very fortunate that I was given that opportunity for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Cody, I would like to hear a little bit about your background.
Oh man.
Where were you raised and what was your experiences?
I was raised in Gig Harbor, Washington. Um, I had a little Arab horse. I don't think my parents paid more than $500 for, and I rode the shoes off that thing. I remember my farrier always joking around about every time he'd come, he said, the shoe is about to split in half. And I would get off the school bus, jump on, and head out and ride. And um, there wasn't a lot of Western riding in our area. There was a 3-day eventing barn right down the road, and that coach, the trainer of that barn, coached a lot of young people. So there's a lot of young girls there. And I was the only boy with a Western saddle in an English barn, and I would just get off the school bus, jump on horses, ride over there, hang out, come home after dark. I kind of growing up, my parents didn't have they they bought me my first horse, but didn't really have the means to buy me anything to go show necessarily. So I had kind of figured out clever ways of making money, and I discovered the sale barn. And so my mom always said you can have two horses. We had two stalls, and I remember one summer I went and stayed the night somewhere, and I asked her to feed for me, and she called me and said, "There's 5 horses out here. I'm like, they'll be gone by the end of summer. Don't worry about it, you know." And
Started some horse
I
trading early
started
on.
horse trading. Yeah, I started buying, training, selling any way that I could.
How old were you doing
And
that?
young, like middle school,
Oh my
high
gosh.
school. I mean, as
I
soon as
love
I
that.
got my license and could drive myself, that's when I got my freedom to, do not necessarily ask for permission, but um, so I showed like, I did some rail classes. That's kind of all there was around there. I always wanted to do more, but just didn't really have access to it. And when I knew that I always wanted a quarter horse, and I had this Arab, and I knew I always wanted one, and I finally got one in high school, and
Did you trade
um,
up? Is that how you
I
did it?
traded up,
Nice.
traded up. As soon as I could get on a quarter horse, I got on one, and then I always wanted to do reining cow horse or rein cow horse, and um, again, that just wasn't really accessible to me at the time, whether it was budget or having anybody close by.
Mhm.
Um, so I kind of got hooked up with a trainer that was giving a clinic in our area, Josh Lyons, and he's a clinician, also trains some reiners. And a friend of mine said, "You got to come meet him. Maybe he needs someone to work for him." And I drove over there and sat on the rail and asked a bunch of questions. And then, sure enough, I was driving to Tennessee to work for him.
Wow.
And that kind of started. I'd never been to a reining show. I'd never been to a horse show really of that caliber. So I remember going to the first reining show and just my eyes wide open, like, what the heck? I mean,
This is a whole new world.
whole new world. I wanted every part of it. And you know, um, I worked for him for about a year, and I wanted to. He gave a lot of clinics, so he was gone a lot,
Hmm.
and I was kind of ready to be like I wanted to be taught. I wanted to
Right.
work hard and
So up until that point, had you taken lessons from anybody, or were you going it solo?
loosely.
Just.
I worked off lessons. I'd clean stalls for the 3-day eventing trainer. I traded out. I remember working off lessons for this old English saddle because the only lessons I could get were English ones, and I had a Western saddle, so I couldn't go over a
Right.
jump. I couldn't do anything that they could do.
Right.
Um, and so I just tried to fit in there, but
Man, that just.
ultimately I didn't.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that just shows how determined you were and how much you wanted it. Like you
Yeah.
must have really loved horses and really, really wanted the opportunity, because there's not very many people that have that much dedication and ingenuity to try to
Yeah.
solve the problem and find a way. It just goes to show, like, there's no excuses. Like you can
Yeah,
you can
Yeah.
make it happen
for
if you want to
sure.
make it happen.
It's not easy to break into the sport that way, and I have so much
Ooh.
respect for him and his dedication to it, and the way that he came up through it. Because I was very fortunate to have those opportunities, and he made those for
Yeah.
himself.
Yeah, and I mean, you both have worked equally hard and are both great hands now, but such different
Yeah,
experiences, and
different for
yeah,
sure.
that's
Yeah.
incredible.
Mhm.
And I started off like I flipped some thoroughbreds because that's what my 3-day eventer trainer did. She would go to the track and pick them up, and so then I would pick one up and I would try to flip that. And um, being the only guy in the barn, I started some of those warm bloods and thoroughbreds, and
Mm-hmm.
it was one of those things that the trainer would pick a day and say, "Hey, Thursday evening when you get off of school, we're gonna start these colts." Well, then word would get around
Oh
and all the
my.
girls would come to the barn that night and sit on the fence and watch me. I was scared. Like these horses were big
You were pretty
and
popular, huh?
Oh
they
yeah.
had a big indoor, and the way they start them is a little different than how we do. You jump up in the saddle and you pretty much hold on, and they chase you around the indoor with a whip. And the harder they buck, the more they crack that whip. And So, you know,
So are you in an English saddle or?
oh yeah.
Oh my
And they
gosh.
didn't give you anything to hold on. I mean, you have a snaffle, but they never had a snaffle in their mouth. So
Holy
it's
cow.
not like you're going to do anything with it other than hang on. And um,
Wow, I bet that taught you to have a seat.
Yeah.
so it taught me to ride more quarter
Made him
horses.
sticky. Yeah.
I got out of that pretty quick. You know, I didn't like being up that high, and I didn't like how high and hard those things could buck. And the first chance I got out of there to, you know, the first chance I got to do reining or Western discipline, I was all in. And, you know, I had a lot of fun growing up, though. My parents weren't horse people. So I didn't, you know, I had friends that their parents were horse people, and they would make sure that, hey, cool down your horse or
Oh,
do
good.
this and do that. Well, my parents didn't know anything. I didn't even know what cooling down a horse was. I didn't know about colic, splints. I mean, I rode the crap off my horse, and she never went lame, and she never
She was
ever
tough.
she never colicked. And I mean, I'd run so fast down a gravel road, shoes would come flying off and whatever. So I mean, I had a lot of freedom growing up. I had a lot of fun growing up, but I didn't know as much as I thought I did until I went and worked for my first trainer.
Mhm.
And although I could stay on a horse, I really had no idea how to change leads, how to get one soft, how to move a rib, a hip. I had no idea. And I was humbled pretty quickly.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
Josh was really, he was the first trainer I worked for professionally outside of like middle school and high school and cleaning stalls and getting lessons here and there in trade of that. And I remember the first time he put me on a reiner, and I mean, he told me to run down and stop. I had that thing running off, not stopping, not. I mean, I had no idea how to sit a stop or, you know,
Mhm.
but I wanted to learn really bad. So I would lay in bed and watch videos on training
Mhm.
and ask questions. And I was really fortunate after working for Josh to work for a guy named Rob Huddleston.
So before
Um,
we move on to
oh,
that, I do have some questions about your
yeah,
time with Josh. How long were you there?
about a year.
About a year.
Yep.
Okay. And like, was there some really pivotal moments in that process? I mean, I hear you saying like you didn't know what you didn't know, right? And I feel like it's very relatable that we sometimes don't realize what we don't know until we ride a horse that has a lot of buttons, and then we're like,
It's a lot
oh,
there.
I don't know how to push these buttons correctly.
Yeah.
There was a lot that each trainer taught, you know, filled gaps in my program. But working for Josh, it was a mindset of these horses are athletes. And I mean, he was very strict about the way we groomed them, the light, being under lights. I didn't know anything about keeping horses under lights and blanketing and
The caring for
just the
them.
care for the
Yeah.
horse.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot about that and the weight. And I mean, he would notice when horses lost 10 pounds, 20 pounds, and I just was not aware of that kind of care at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the cold hosing and just their legs being taken care of. And
Mm-hmm.
Josh was a clinician, and maybe I have a natural personality for coaching people, but the things to say, I really learned how to coach people through working for Josh for sure.
I bet
Um,
it is a skill in itself.
yeah,
Yeah.
breaking things down,
Mm-hmm.
demonstrating,
Mm-hmm.
um, all that stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then going to the first horse show, I'm glad I went with him because he would only go with maybe a couple horses. So it was enough to you weren't working to death and being thrown, you know, right into the ocean. You know, you had
Right.
time to kind of ease into it and explore and ask questions and watch. And
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, it was very beneficial. Their family was very good to me while I worked for them and gave me a lot of opportunities. So
That's awesome. So did you get much writing opportunity while you were there? Or?
yeah, I did. Um, but it with him being a clinician, he would be there maybe for 3 weeks to put you on the right track, and then he'd leave for a month, and you're left with some horses in training that you probably, you know, you fell a little in over your head sometimes, and
Yeah,
you'd try to make something, and you had a lot of pressure on yourself. That I was like, when Josh gets home, I want this horse to
for
be
sure.
progressed, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Very motivating, though, I'm sure.
Very motivating. You know, sometimes the owners would come and see him, and Josh is out of town, and you're like, man, maybe I need to ride this thing twice, a day to get him where he should be, and you'd
Right.
be nervous and you would be riding him around. And um, yeah, a lot to learn there. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember I'd never really taught one to change leads, and Josh working with me on that. And there were some long days, and he was very patient. And um,
It's funny to me, the
yeah,
changing leads things, it comes up all the time. And I mean, for me, it was one of the biggest struggles I had
yep,
and when I started riding broker horses. And it's, it's always been so funny to me because it's the one thing they do like all horses do naturally for the most part. I mean, there's some that are very good at it, even if they're out running around, but they
Yeah.
all do it, right?
yeah.
And for whatever reason, as humans, we hop up there and we can totally take it away from them.
Oh yeah.
I tell you what, we overcomplicate it too.
We do
Yeah.
overcomplicate
Over
it.
the years, I found a lot simpler ways of
Excuse you, Kelso.
Yeah. Sorry
changing
about that.
leads. Yeah, he's center of attention.
Making himself heard.
Well, we're right next to his stall, so I guess it is fair. It's
Yeah,
his bedroom.
It is fair.
Anybody who knows me knows that horse is my pride and joy. So
He's pretty cool.
yeah,
He's pretty cool. Well, that sounds like a great experience and super valuable. So from there you went to
a guy named Rob Huddleston, a very very good horseman. Um, he taught me. I mean, he was kind of good at everything. He had a very good colt starting program.
He trained Rainers.
Okay.
He trained Rainers, was very respectable. Maybe not as known in the show pen, but known from horse trainers, very successful ones as the trainer to go get lessons from and learn
Okay,
from.
yeah.
I always felt lucky to work for him. I remember riding. I remember working for him and thinking, I will never look like that on a horse. I will never know what this guy knows. And I mean, he could get horses to just pony lope with their nose in the dirt and change leads without touching them.
Oh wow.
And he could get in a horse's mind. And I think up until that point, I didn't have a very good understanding of horses having individual personalities
Mm-hmm.
and needing to use different tools on each horse.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of just got on everything and rode them all the same.
Mm-hmm.
And Rob changed that whole view for me of each horse is different, unique, um, how to get into their brain. He talked to me a lot about mental discipline and how to get those horses real focused on you
Mm-hmm.
and to get them to want to do it and build the desire. Um, I messed up a lot at Rob's. He demanded a lot out of me, but he told me later on that it was because he saw the potential. And I remember him saying, when you're done working for me, you're going to be able to work for anybody because this is your boot camp. And
Right.
I love you, and I'm hard on you, and because I see it in you.
Right.
And he set me up to go work for anybody. He really did, because I could take an ass chewing and keep my mouth shut. I knew that he cared about me,
Right.
and I didn't know what I thought I knew.
Right.
And really, it came down to the care of the horses again, just the way he cared for them, the way that I mean, I remember just like, I don't even know how to lead a horse. I mean, I got my butt chewed about how to lead one, how to tie one, how to bathe one. Why are you spraying them at that angle? You're getting water in their ear or their
Right.
eye. And it's like, I've always rinsed down a horse. I've been doing this 20 years. What are you talking about? And you're like, this guy's right. I mean, you just don't know what you
What you
don't know. And so I credit most of the style that maybe my horses have from him, because he had a lot of style in his horses. The way they spin, how dynamic they were, the way they stopped, and that guy could just, I mean, he could change any dynamic on a horse's spin or stop to make it round and collected and cool. And
Mm-hmm.
so all that style really came from working for Rob. And
Well,
all of the foundation of my training came from working for him. And
those
I
things you just
worked
listed
hard.
are things that I've always really admired about the way your horses look. And so that's all. I mean, it's cool that you had that influence because I think that's something that kind of sets you apart is the way your horses carry themselves through those stops, your turnarounds. I mean, it's definitely different than a lot of people that we see in our area, and it looks amazing.
I credit most of that to him. I was really lucky that he was one of the first trainers I worked for, because the foundation he put on me set me up to go work for the trainers that I then went on to work for. And um, they were able to add to it, but really that solid cult starting foundation and the style and all that came from Rob, and really set me up for the rest of my life, honestly. So
Was there like a specific moment in time, a piece of advice, uh, something very, very specific that sticks with you from that experience? Maybe something he told you that was really important.
I can't in the moment, I can't think of anything too specific, but I learned how to be a cowboy.
Right.
My dad spent 5 years or more on tour to Iraq and Afghanistan.
Oh, wow.
I didn't have a role model around very much, and I think Rob really taught me the cowboy way of life. This is how you walk, this is how you dress, this is how you talk, this is how you handle horses, how you
Wow.
do things. And I felt like at that point in my life, I really needed that, and I needed the ass chewing, and I needed the hard love, and
Mm-hmm.
he made me a lot tougher.
Mm-hmm.
And um, I credit a lot of that to him. And
Yeah.
he was in Mississippi. It was hot. Mind you, I'm from Gig Harbor, Washington, where it's 70 degrees and rainy. It was hot, humid. We worked long days. There weren't really any days off. I was the stall cleaner and the assistant. Um, so we worked 7 days a week, and it's a different way of life there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think by the time I left, the only reason I did is because I was so tired. It wasn't because I didn't have more to learn. It was because I was like, I'm exhausted. And
Right. Right. What a great influence.
yeah, very much.
Absolutely. You wrap things up with Rob. You need a
Yep.
breather.
Yep.
And where do you head to next?
In the time of moving to Tennessee and Mississippi, my parents had moved to Boise, Idaho. I had come to visit them and really liked it here, wanted to be closer to family. I started researching trainers in the valley that were hiring, and I I should rewind a little bit. When I was working for Rob, although he trained reiners, he was getting into cow horse, and that was obviously very eye-opening and fun. So I knew I was ready and wanted to go work for a cow horse trainer. Um, I had found Dan Rozier and packed all my stuff, moved here. Um, that was my first experience with cow horses, and as you know, with reiners, they don't make moves without you telling them to. So uh, I remember going down the fence for my first time, and we're boxing, and I'm really just a passenger at this point. Horse turns, I'm out here. Horse turns, I'm out here. And then he says, take it down the fence. And so we go Mach 90 down this fence. Cow stops, horse turns, I keep going.
Oh, no.
I heard Dan looking at me like, oh gosh,
Like, where did I
like
find
this
this
guy's
guy?
got a lot to figure out. And the jokes went flying, and so, there was a week where I think um, Dan went to a horse show, and there was another assistant there at the time, Thomas Clover, and he said, we're going to get you caught up. And he put me on as many horses as he could, and he gave me lessons all day, and we worked cows. And he
Oh,
said, by
wow.
the time Dan gets home, you're going to be here, and you're going to be past this stage of your training here. And so he put a lot of time into me, and getting me where I needed to be
Right.
for Dan to not maybe be so embarrassed.
Well, what a great investment he made in you.
He
That's
did.
awesome.
And he's been a very good friend even to today. We've got a horse in the barn that Thomas has sent a horse over here for us to kind of tune up, and it's just cool to kind of have that friendship
Absolutely.
in that respect, and years later for it to come full circle, and return that favor for him.
Yeah.
Um,
It just goes to show when
Yeah.
somebody shows up with a work ethic and dedication, man, doors just open, right? Like
Yeah.
people want to help you succeed if you really show up for it.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. And have a
Yeah.
good attitude about
Yeah.
it, you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that do this and we all work really hard at it. And so if you're trying to break into it the way Cody did, like your work ethic, your word, your attitude, that's all you have, you know.
Mhm.
And it can get
Yep.
you really, really far.
Mhm.
I've always taken I've always taken pride in my work ethic because, like my wife just said, that is all you have,
Mhm.
and that is something that no one can take from you.
Absolutely.
And it has opened up a lot of opportunities for me because maybe I didn't have the most knowledge or skill at the time,
Mhm.
but the only reason I have it now is because my work ethic got me there and people saw that and invested a lot of time into me. And you
Mhm.
know, I didn't have parents that were horse trainers. I didn't have parents that had a lot of money or knew a lot about training horses or roped. I didn't grow up roping. I didn't even grow up anywhere where they rode Western.
Right.
So
Right.
I learned it really late in my life. It
Mhm.
wasn't until my 20s that I went and worked for a reining trainer.
Mhm.
And I didn't show a horse, I think, until I was 24,
Okay.
maybe 25. So a lot of this has come a lot later for me. I didn't grow up competing, and I don't really think it's a disadvantage. I mean, maybe it is, but I've tried to make up for it as quickly as possible, and
Great.
it does kind of hurt sometimes when you're 24, 25 years old and you're competing against people who have shown their whole life and you're making mistakes that you shouldn't be making at 25 years old.
Mhm.
But my wife has always reminded me, hey, you've only been in the show pen a year or 2 years,
Right.
and you've only been showing one horse or
Mhm.
two horses, so just don't be so hard on yourself. Um, but I've had to figure it out pretty fast because it wasn't long before we were out on our own and
Right.
people are sending us horses. And it's like, hey, we got to,
We gotta step up.
yeah, we're getting good at maybe training them, but showing them's a whole new
Yeah.
ball game. So
Mhm.
that was a part of the puzzle piece I hadn't gotten yet. I had,
Mhm.
you know, and we'll get more into that story too. But
Yeah.
while working for Dan, I met Erin.
Nice.
Um,
The best thing that ever happened to you.
best thing
Sitting
that
right
ever
here.
happened to me. Yes.
Absolutely.
And she has obviously taught me a lot because she has shown horses from a young age, and college has really
Yeah.
been beneficial
Wow.
for her
Yeah.
too.
What an
And
experience.
one of the things that obviously stood out to me when I first met Erin was how she rode. I remember the first day I saw her ride, it's like, who is she? I mean,
Yeah.
she is really handy and
Mhm.
obviously beautiful.
Mhm.
And so we kind of hit it off, and maybe we didn't hit it off right away. I had to work on her a little bit, but
Soften her up a little bit.
yeah, I just, persistence, work
Yeah.
ethic,
Work ethic,
really worked for
dedication.
me during that period of time. Still is, and
Where did you guys meet? Like, where were you at?
Dan's at
It
the
was
time.
At Dan's.
Yep.
Yeah.
So were you out there riding and
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. My mom had a horse in training there at the time that she had just left for like a few months, and I think initially I had come back to visit. I hadn't moved here yet,
Yep.
and I think I was on like my
I
spring
didn't see you for
break or
3 months
something
after the
like
first
that.
time I saw you. I remember that.
Yeah. Remember all the timelines.
He was counting.
Yeah.
He was
yeah.
counting the days.
So I was just out there for my spring break. I mean, a lot of my friends were on a beach getting really drunk, and I was like, I want to go home and ride horses. Not that I didn't have my fair share of fun in college too. So I went out there and rode, and yeah, that's when I met Cody. And I went out there a few more days that week, and then went back to Dallas. And I think like 3 months later is when I moved here. So we both moved to Idaho like within a few months of each other,
Oh,
which
nice.
is
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Not having known each other at all.
Mhm.
So
Timing lined up.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, we both had something we were looking for,
yeah,
or maybe not.
Or maybe it
But it
just
worked
wore
out.
on her.
It worked
Either
out.
way.
Yeah.
it did work out.
Well,
Yep.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what was your major in college? I didn't ask you that.
So it was business management and sports marketing.
Oh, wow. I bet that's come in handy with your current lifestyle.
It did, or has, yes, for sure. I will say, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I even switched my major after my sophomore year, and switched drastically. So I ended up having to like beef up a lot of the credits and classes I was taking so I could graduate on time because I didn't want to get left behind when all my friends graduated.
Right.
But yeah, that degree has definitely helped with my current career.
Of
So,
course.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. So you meet the love of your life at Dan. You're there for a while.
Yep.
Where do you go next?
So after that, I went and worked for Nathan Kent for a little while. Just kind of needed a change of scenery at that time. And Nathan Kent and I became very good friends kind of right off the bat. I still, up to this point, had not shown a horse. And Nathan knew that I was doing cow horse. So at that time, I think Ellie had maybe 1 or 2 horses in training with me at the time. So I went to work for Nathan, and in the evening times, I would work my cow horses. And Nathan would let me have every weekend I needed off to go to cow horse shows. But I worked my butt off for him to keep his horses, his reiners going. And so in return, he would make sure I got my time off to go to cow horse shows. And
Nice.
And gave you a few opportunities to show
yep,
too.
gave me
Yeah.
a pretty cool horse to go show.
Very
And that built my confidence up. I think I showed that horse at my very first show. I got to show him twice, and when I went in the first time, I bombed it. I mean, bombed it. And then I showed him a few days later and won the, what was it? I don't know.
Like rookie pro or
Yeah,
something
rookie
like
pro,
that.
and
Nice.
had a pretty good showing. And I don't know. I
Disclaimer
must.
though, that's not normal. You don't typically go win your second.
I know, right? Right?
That is not
I had a
normal.
lot of
You're
pressure
gonna
on
give
myself.
people, you're
and-
gonna give people unrealistic expectations
Yes,
with that kind
Yeah.
of
for
talk.
sure.
Hey, there's a lot of failures in between, though. I mean,
Yeah.
even up until this point, and Nathan giving me that opportunity, and I got a lot of confidence showing that horse, and somehow pulled it together and pulled it off, and he was pretty happy with me, and the owners were, and
Absolutely.
most importantly, my wife. And then after,
So your cow horses came from
Yep.
your current mother-in-law. Were you guys
I feel like
married
I
at that
might have
time?
jumped a part there because I'm trying to figure out how that happened. I think when I had left Dan's, Ellie had a 2-year-old,
Okay.
and she put it in training with me,
Yep.
and she was reiner bred,
Yeah.
not very cowy, and I did my very best.
To make her.
I
a
also
horse.
maybe didn't know a lot about what I was doing either, so
Yeah.
that mare was the right horse at the right time. I would go mark 74s in the reining and 68s down the fence, and she wasn't very fast and she wasn't very cowy, and I learned a lot on that mare. And as I was training at Nathan's, I think that's when I started Bugsy, Shiner's voodoo doll.
Okay.
And that was definitely an upgrade from the mare I had been riding as far as cowiness. And
Not to cut you off, but just to add to that, I think my mom seeing the work that he put into that first mare is really what showed her, like, not just his work ethic, but his heart, because he treats his horses like and cares for them, thinking about the longevity in the long term and making a horse that will be good for him right now but good for somebody else 5 years down the road. And she saw how dedicated he was and how hungry he was, and I think what he put into that horse is really what helped open up the doors for some of the other babies that she had that had not been started yet. Sorry
yeah,
to
we
cut you
had
off.
that really helped our bond. And we didn't have cows, so I would work all day for Nathan. Erin and I would load horses up in the trailer and drive all the way to Marsing at Scott Winfrey's and work cows there 2 to 3 days a week, come home at 10, 11 o'clock at night, and do it all over again. And we did that whether it was snowing, hot, raining. I mean, she would have dinner ready, jump in the truck, I load the horse, and we would eat as we're driving out there. And I think Ellie just saw that we wanted it really bad, and that we were trying our best, and we did the best we could with that first horse that she sent us. And then here comes Bugsy,
Shiner's voodoo doll.
and I always saw the talent in her. She maybe not the easiest horse to train, but I always knew that she had it in her, and she was the only one I had, so she didn't really have a choice either. You know, I put a lot of time into her, and I was working for Nathan when I started her, and I worked for Nathan, I don't know, maybe 2 years.
So yeah, around that.
And then I needed to learn more about cutting. That was kind of like working for Dan. I learned how to go down the fence. Working for the reining trainers, I learned how to rein. I was missing this piece in my program, and that was the herd work. And I always had a lot of respect for John Rozier. Over the years, I remember going to shows and just being like, man, I wish I looked like that on a horse, and the way he sits one, and you know, John didn't always have the best horses at the show, but he always got the most out of them, and those horses looked happy, and he made them look really nice, and he was a very quiet rider. I went there hoping to learn more about herd work, but I learned more about a lot.
Everything.
I mean everything. John is a encyclopedia of cow horse, and what he has done for the both of us in our program. There are nights where Erin would get off work, so I kept all of my. At the time, I think I had 4 or 5 outside horses, and he allowed me to keep those at his house. My mother-in-law lived right down the road a few miles, and we had a arena and barn over there. So Erin would get off work, haul her horse over, and ride in the evening time. And
Nice.
we joked that John saved our relationship at that time because John took an interest in coaching Erin. So it would be 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, sometimes 9 o'clock at night. And when Erin would pull in the driveway, here come John.
Oh, nice.
And he would get on a horse and help her on the flag, help her on cows. And I mean, I would be helping her, and if it wasn't going well, John would just walk right in between us and start coaching her, and I would go get on my next horse.
Yeah.
And
Haven't you guys ever heard the rule? You're not supposed to coach somebody you've seen naked.
we've gotten a lot better about it with time, but at that time, you know, it was ups and downs, and John was incredible to us. I mean, I would walk out smiling, just watching those two. It's night, it's dark, and he's just sitting out there helping her for hours on end, and for him to do that for nothing back, just
Right.
to be the human that he is. And
It's amazing.
you know, Nathan was another one of those guys who has always helped us and coached Erin, and you know, to this day we go over to Nathan's and John's regularly and school and get second opinions, and
Yeah.
both those guys have been monumental in our training program and in our relationship as well.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
Absolutely.
It's great to have those role models like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, John Rozier. I mean, Hall
He's
of
a
Fame.
walking
he's-
legend.
He's a
Incredible.
legend. Yeah.
I remember going to Texas with him and walking side by side with him. You wanted to walk like him. He's just an idol. I mean, the guy is a walking legend, and he's got this aura about him that, you know, he's just really paved the path for a lot of people in this industry. And I think he was one of the original horsemen that showed real smooth, you know, like just had slow hands, was very quiet on a horse, and really pioneered the way of showing horses in a quiet manner.
Yeah. I think he's a true horseman, and that's a lot of what he taught us and instilled in us is like the horse coming first and how to get into their mind in a way that they can win. And
Yeah.
he taught us so much, so much. It's
I had all these
invaluable.
buttons and all these things that I could put on a horse before I worked for him, and then he took all that and
He's like, you're doing too much.
said, "You're doing too much. Like, just try to use your rein, or have a little
Yeah.
life in your foot, and have a little life in your hand, and just do a lot less." And he tied all of my rein work to the cow work. So, working for John, he made everything I do on my dry work connect to a cow. And at the time, I was doing everything separate. So, he pulled all that together, and he gave me my first cow horse to show, other than Ellie's mare. John gave me this bridle horse. I think his name was Heidelina's Peppy.
Yeah.
His name's Roger, owned by Diane Rezitar. that horse was a fence horse. That horse taught me what it should feel like to go down the fence, and I wouldn't be able to train horses go down the fence like I do today if it weren't for that horse teaching me the feel. Um, so John gave me this horse, and I think I won some limited open bridles, and then I entered all the way up and won some open bridles, and
Nice.
then I think I overspun at one show, and that, for any other trainer, maybe that would have given him an opportunity to take that horse back and show himself. And he didn't do that. He let me finish the season on that horse, and we finished really strong on him. Um, I was at the Idaho Futurity, and he was saddling up a horse. We were both saddling up horses to go in the open bridle, and at this time, I definitely had the better horse. And here, John's kind of like, he's sitting there, and if you know John, he's a funny guy, lots of jokes, and he's sitting there, here we go, so and so, let's go mark our 67 or 68, and he's kind of like making some jokes, and I look over at him, and I said, I feel like you got the short end of the stick here, and he said, I did, but you need it more than I do.
Wow.
And
That's the kind of person he is. Him
Wow.
and Tanya, yeah.
that's the kind of
That's
person he was,
Yeah.
and that's the kind of opportunities that he gave me. And he really helped push me to be ready to go out on my own. If I really feel like he took everything that I learned of 10 years as an assistant and took it and just put it all to a purpose and good use and gave me the show experience that I really needed, and sent me on my way, and
right.
is still a very good mentor. I mean,
Yeah.
we go over there and have him watch us flag horses, and him and Tanya have been really good to us. So
They have.
Absolutely. And they're also so involved in the industry as a whole.
Yeah.
I know they do a lot for the youth association as well
Yeah.
as the NRCHA um, and also our local Intermountain Circuits in Idaho show.
yep,
Yeah.
They are heavily involved and very supportive of the industry and good people to boot.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, very good.
A lot of good people have come out of his program. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
there's too many to list. I know Jake Gorel, Sarah Dawson, Clay Rozier, myself. I feel like there's a common denominator there, and it's John Rozier, and
Yeah.
I think he's really good at teaching people how to have a presence in the pen.
yeah,
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's accurate?
how you
Like,
sit one is very important.
yeah.
Where you keep your hand, and staying quiet, and
Yeah.
being real calm and present. And I mean, someone else I probably should mention is Annie Reynolds. That relationship grew after I left John's, and that is someone else who has been a very huge mentor in our process of growing. And when I left John's, Ellie had a place in Cuna, only an outdoor arena, and we moved in there and maxed it out pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I think Ellie's kind of watching us grow, and she's thinking, well, shoot, what are we going to do here? Well, in the wintertime, the first winter there, we hauled out. I mean, it'd be a foot of snow on the ground. We're loading up my 6-horse, and we're hauling over to Lucky Run, and we would ride with Nathan, and just work horses while it was snowing or raining because our ground froze. And the second winter, Annie Reynolds gave us the opportunity to rent her facility in Glens Ferry. She had bought in a facility in Arizona, and so she was leaving for winter, and trusted us with her cow horse Disneyland is what she calls it, and it is Disneyland.
It is that.
And we spent 2 winters there and 2 summers in Cuna. And then Ellie, I think it might have been Easter, or I think it might have been Easter. She said, get in the car. And we got in the car, and she drove us out to this property that we're sitting on right now. It's just an alfalfa field. And she said, we just got this, and we're building a training facility.
Oh, wow.
And we're like, what?
Yeah.
And so the hard work didn't end there. It
No.
kept continuing. So
Yeah.
now we had sold her place in Cuna and had no summer place, and Annie's coming home and needs her place back. And Dylan Sponseller opened her doors to her facility for not one but 2 summers. And we gained a great friendship over those 2 summers. And we could not have done it without Dylan and Annie giving us a place to house our program for 2 whole years while we built this place. So
Yeah.
there's, like I said, you can't do this by yourself. I think every successful trainer has had somebody back them, and more ways than one. I laugh and say you need about $1.5 million to $2 million to make minimum wage, and so you can't do that by yourself. And you need to, relations are very important, and
Absolutely.
there were a lot of people that believed in us and saw the hard work and knew we wanted it and would take good care of the opportunities they gave us. And here we are today.
I love it. So, your experiences with Annie, have you had the opportunity to be coached much by Annie?
A lot by Annie.
Nice.
I always felt like Annie and I had a lot of similar ways of riding or styles. So we meshed really good right off the bat in the way that our horses loped and the way that our horses carried themselves. It just kind of meshed. And if anybody's had a privilege to be coached by her, our friendship, I've gone to Arizona and spent time at her place there and in Donley, and even when she'd come home for summertime, I would haul over there and get some help. And you think you're just figuring it out. And I remember one day I go and lope off, and she goes, "Okay, now walk." And you're like, "Oh crap!" And she's like, "Let's work on that lead departure." And you're like,
Uh-oh.
"Man, we're going way back." Like
And right back to the beginning.
right back to the beginning. I thought the lead departure was okay, and you put your hands down and drop them on that horse's neck and lope off. And so she taught me a lot about being present in the show pen, and that it is a job and to execute each maneuver, and look at it more detached. As a trainer, we put a lot of time into these horses, and they're our kids. For a lot of us, they are. And when you go in that show pen, there's a lot of emotional attachment to these horses because we believe in them, and it gets in our way, actually. You go in there and you don't put it all out on the line because you're protecting that horse, and you don't want them to fail in front of people. And Annie has taught me, when you're in the show pen, that's your time to hang it out there. You can come home and fix it. You can school. But when you go to a horse show, that's your time to risk it, and you only get paid if you risk it. And being real present and being detached and saying that is your job. Like, I get that you train that horse, but somebody's been paying you to do it, and you need to detach yourself from that horse for 3 minutes. And she's got a lot of experience doing so. And Annie has not had a very easy life, and although she's had a lot of help from her mother, like I have from my mother-in-law, her mom was pretty hard on her also, from what I've heard, and had high expectations, and it's made Annie who she is
Annie
today.
is a legend. Annie Reynolds is a legend. I mean,
Yeah.
realistically, at the time that she was coming up through the industry and going from being a non-pro into being an open rider, managing her own breeding program, like she has so much knowledge. I mean, between the list of people you've listed, you've had some absolutely incredible mentors and opportunities to learn from literally some of the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very lucky.
Yeah.
Very, very
It's
lucky.
really, I think, most fortunate to work for horsemen. People that didn't intimidate horses, but learned to get in a horse's mind and cared a lot about their horses. And I feel like most of the guys I worked for had that in common. I mean, I know Annie is very much that way. John, I remember he would wash a horse for 30 minutes in the wash bay. You're like, "Where's John?" And he'd be in there letting one drink out of the hose, and then you walk around the corner and he's letting it graze in the front lawn, and you're like,
Love it.
just people who really cared about the horse. And allow me to call them and ask them questions, and they're not afraid to tell me what they think. And
Mm-hmm.
you know,
And you
although
know what they're saying is coming from a place of
very
Yeah.
can't take it personally.
absolutely,
Yeah.
It's all to make you better, and
absolutely.
you know, whatever that is that they have to say, it's their good intention, and the reason they're willing to put time into us is because we don't take it personally, and
Mm-hmm.
we do listen, and
Yeah.
we do get better, and we show that we get better.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
There's so much to be said about being coachable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think, and I think all good coaches have maybe gone through a period of their lives where they were um, getting coached. And I think sometimes that really helps people with their coaching styles. But being a coachable client is so valuable. It just goes back to that dedication and work ethic and
Yeah.
being able to tuck down the constructive criticism and use it the way it needs to be
Yeah.
used.
Yeah.
Such a valuable asset in
Yeah.
all things.
For sure.
Learning how to control your emotions, learning how to not take things personally. You have to forget the ride that you just had. If you had a bad one, Rob used to say, if you're doubting something or things are going wrong, you'll be right 99% of the time if you stop and back up and just sit there.
Yeah.
And there are times where sometimes you just need to stop, think, regroup,
Mm-hmm.
end on a good note. And when you get on that next horse, you have to forget about the ride you just had,
Right.
and just give that next horse the opportunity to do the right thing. And mastering your emotions and mastering that side of things will greatly, you know you'll gain from it greatly.
For sure. And I would even, I mean, I don't know if you agree, but I would even say, even within a ride, sometimes something goes wrong in a moment and you have to, like, within seconds after it's been,
Adjust.
just move
Yeah.
on and
Yeah.
act like it never happened. Horses, if you keep adding pressure because of your frustrations, you're typically going to get the wrong answers.
Yeah.
Doesn't
very
work.
much so. And they're
Yeah.
your mirror. Like, I think that's something that a lot of people don't really take into consideration if they're having issues with their horse. Like, well, how are you approaching your ride? Like, if you're anxious and angry and carrying all of this into your ride, your horse is going to feel that and they're going to show that through. But if you're
Absolutely.
confident and trusting them and building their confidence, like, then you'll have a different outcome. And so I think that is a huge, huge piece of it.
I think there's two ways to train a horse, and that is confidence, and the other one is
Fear.
fear.
Yeah.
And you can go one way or the other. Training a horse out of fear has never worked for me. Even if I try it for 5 minutes, it backfires in such a way that it reminds you never to do it again.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just not something we go to. And I think at this point in my career, it's just not even something we
Yeah.
even try to test out anymore, But I think if you base everything around getting that horse confident in their job and working towards that and just riding for 1% more a day, that's
Yeah.
something that I like to tell my non-pros is, ride for tomorrow and get 1% better a day.
Absolutely.
And after a year, you'll be 365% better. But
Yeah.
don't try to get this big jump in one ride. You got to just trust that what you did today is going to turn into something tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of your non-pro program, I've been fortunate enough to ride and take a lesson or two from you, Cody, and I can tell you that it was very enjoyable and very informative. But one of the things I liked the most was just your optimistic energy, and all those things you just said reminded me of that because that's essentially what you're instilling in your horses as well.
Yeah.
And I can see that in your horses, like they're excited to go do their job and they're not worried about it, right? And that's just something I really enjoyed about your coaching style. You got to the point and you gave me the information, but you were also really excited about the process,
Yeah.
you know? Um, and I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in when things aren't going well, and getting down on ourselves and not enjoying that process. It was just so great to see. And I feel like that's a reflection of your personality as a whole. But really adopted into your coaching style. And Do you think that's just part of who you are, or do you think that's something that you have learned and adapted to and a skill that you've honed?
I think it's probably who I am.
Yeah.
Um, I've been coached by people who didn't have that approach, and I didn't learn very quick under that guidance. I've seen non-pros in situations where they fear of doing the wrong thing for the reputation of the trainer, or getting a butt chewing afterwards. And I I tell my clients, don't worry about me. Like, I can hold up my own reputation. I don't expect you to go in there and win to be a reflection of me.
Right.
Like, obviously that's what we're striving for, is to help you guys be confident in the show pen and to do well. But it's unrealistic to think that you are going to have perfect rides each time. And I don't want you to think that you're going to come out of the pen and I'm going to hang my head and be disappointed or chew your butt. It just means we're going to go home and work on it
Right.
and get better about it. But by the time we've gotten to the horse show, the training's over, and you're gonna go show what you've been practicing. And I try to instill in my non-pros that they need to go show in the same way that they practice. And what I mean by that is, when you guys and us, when we do our paid warm-ups, why do we have the winning run in our paid warm-ups? That horse does not know he's not being judged. That horse does not know that he's being shown or not shown, but you're riding like you're not being judged.
Right.
And that horse always drops their head and runs a circle and slows down and stops and turns, and you ride so confidently. And then 2 days later, it's showtime, and you change everything you're doing, and you're rushing the turnarounds, and you're running them off, to your stops, and everything just changes. And I think that keeping in mind that you need to be present and you need to show what you've been practicing and ride the exact same you would in that paid warm up or at home. But it's our job as a trainer to give you a toolbox and give you tools every time you're out here, to work on things and fix things on your own, because we're not always going to be there to help you
Right.
or see everything. And I would like my non-pros to go to the show confident, and I would like them to know how to fix things and come to me if they need help. But really, it's enjoyable for me and it's enjoyable for them if we're at the show pen and we're all riding around in the same warm-up pen together, laughing and joking. And I see someone fixing something all on their own, and I glance over and I know that you got it under control and you're doing what we've worked on at home and you know how to fix it and you don't need me.
Right.
And that's what we should be doing, right?
It's rewarding. Yeah. You're
Yeah.
actually teaching instead of just managing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like
I
that a
don't
lot.
want you guys to feel like you need me all the time, It's
Yeah. So that disconnect between the schooling or the lesson at home and the show pen and that change that we create in our horses, do you feel like that's based mostly on nerves?
it's based on nerves and fear of failure. And I tell you what, I've had some really incredible horses that unfortunately I've had to spend a year, 2 years schooling because of the nerves that I had instilled in them in the show pen. Just in the last couple of years have I gotten better about going in the show pen and dropping my hands and risking it, as Annie or John would tell me to do,
Right.
and saying ride present, ride the same. But beforehand, I would safety up, clamp your feet up, get nervous, ride differently, and they walk in that show pen, and all of their buddies are gone. They're in there with just you, and you're scared. And they're thinking, "Where's the tiger? Where's the lion? Where's
Right.
what's out here? Why are you nervous?" And so I wasn't instilling that confidence in my horse. I was going in there and being nervous, and they were reading off of me. And I have worked very hard to start from the very beginning now on horses and never letting it get to that point. But I'm still fixing horses that are very talented and have been very successful. And by the end of, showing them 3-4 times of showing them successfully, they've gotten nervous, and amped up about it, and it's because of the way that I was in the show pen. And I tell you what, when you've got to school a very talented horse for 2 years straight because of something you did in the show pen,
You learn
it will
from it.
change the way that you show and do things from there on out, because it's very disappointing to have a talented horse that's not getting money on them because you're schooling 3 times, 4 times, and fixing them.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's a hard lesson to learn. I think that a lot of trainers have learned that, and I think a lot of non-pros have either learned that or aren't aware of it yet. But hopefully, if they come through this program, they will learn the benefits of relaxing and being
So,
present.
how much value do you place on the schooling process? Let's say you have a horse. Let's say best case scenario, you have one that really hasn't built up much for nerves yet. Do you start the schooling process before that's become an issue, or how do you kind of pick your schooling processes?
I have learned a lot about schooling from Annie Reynolds. I work for John Rozier, and we joke he's the underschooler. And then, I've learned from Annie, who there's a joke that she's the overschooler. Um, Annie has taught me, I spent years schooling, but not doing the right thing, just not knowing how to school. Knowing how to school is very important, not just going in there and making them wait and this and that. It's, some of the things that Annie taught me is as soon as you feel anxiety in that horse, whether it's you just loped off, you need to break those horses down right then and there and reassure them calmness and relaxation before you move on. Because if you allow that anxiety to build and build and build and you just keep going, by the time you've made it to rundowns, they're running off.
Right.
So you need to break it all down, start from the beginning. If it's the lead departure, if it's the lead change, if it's the fast circle, you need to break it down there. But back to your question, schooling, they need to learn how to run a 70, and then they need to learn how to run a 73 and a 74. But they need to learn that they need to run the run that you want them to run. They don't go in there and have this expectation that we are always going to run and mark a 74. They need to wait on you. And that's something I've learned from Annie. And I think that every time you show them, my rule of thumb is kind of school twice, show once. And they need to go lope 270s and be shown, called upon maybe that third time.
Right. Right. I think that's great
If you
advice.
keep calling on them, they're going to think every time I go in there, we run. And every time we go in there, you ask me to do things very fast. And that only lasts so long. And it takes years to fix. Only 3 or 4 times of showing one at that level to have them there. So
Right. Well, talking about schooling horses and making sure you're still speaking the same language with your horse that you actually. You can't teach your horse English and then speak Spanish when you go in the show pen, right? So, do you guys have a mental process? Cody, we'll start with you. A mental process that you use to kind of prepare yourself to step in and be the best showman you can be that day.
it's taken years to figure that out. I think always there's fine tuning that goes into that. And for me, the training's over. You need to keep that horse confident. And it's very easy to fall into a trap of getting on that horse that morning or right before you show and maybe start picking on some stuff. That's a trap that I think a lot of people could easily fall into, but it's a trap that you should avoid at all cost. Just really something I've always told Erin and some of our non-pros is I can sleep well at night knowing that if I got up the night before and the morning of and I schooled that horse, if it doesn't go right in the show pen, I know that I gave it everything I have. I know that I gave the owner everything I have. It's hard to wake up in the morning and stay up late, but at least if it goes wrong, you know that, hey, I woke up and I did it, and it, maybe some bobbles happened, but before I show, just need to trot them around. Just keep friends with that horse. Keep them quiet. They don't need to know that they're showing. They really shouldn't feel like they're being shown while they're in there. It's just
Right.
keep it a seamless process and don't amp them up and charge them up and then wonder why they are running off and nervous when you walk in there. And
And are you the type that really like centers yourself, visualizes?
gotta visualize.
Are you the more talkative, go interact with people kind of
Yeah,
person?
my wife and I are complete opposites. I talk to stay off my horse. So, like, I try to leave my horse alone and I goof off and talk and, make jokes with other trainers and just to keep me occupied. I'm sure there's other trainers that are trying to get centered that I'm throwing them off. Sure of it, but it helps me. Um, I like to visualize my pattern. That's something that John used to talk to me about. He's like, visualize your perfect pattern, visualize the cues, and um, you got to let your body override your mind. You have to have muscle memory because a lot of the times we get in the show pen and our brain gets in the way of muscle memory. If I tell you to go change leads, you can change. If I just say, "Hey, run across the pen right now, quick, go over there and change leads," you can change leads, no
Right.
problem. If I tell you, give you a heads up, like, "Hey, I want you to lope 2 circles and come and change leads," the opportunity of that lead change going sour is a lot greater than if I told you 10 strides before to change leads. And that's proof that muscle memory is a big thing, and not to overthink showing, because at the end of the day we ride horses all day long. Our bodies know how to do it.
Right.
We just get in our own way with our mind.
That subconscious mind can
That
be
subconscious
very
mind, like,
powerful.
how should I ask him? Should I set him up right now? Like, have you ever set that horse up 10 strides before lead
Right.
change?
Yeah. Why are you making it a big deal
Yeah,
now? Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. What does your mental preparation look like?
stone cold.
Not wrong. I think what he shared, especially going into the rain work days, is a huge piece of it. Like making sure that you school the night before and the morning of to give yourself and that horse every opportunity to win and succeed. So that's probably number one. And then day of, for me, I am definitely like the intense one compared to Cody when it comes to getting ready to compete. And I have been that way literally since I was 10. Like, I can remember one of my really good friends to this day that I competed with at that age coming to me when I was like 18 and saying, "I'm not gonna lie, I thought you were just really mean and scary and not friendly." And that's understandable because I am intense when I'm getting ready to show. But that's also not who I am at my core.
No.
It's just like I get in the zone and I put blinders on and I just get really focused. And that's, what has kind of worked for me. But I think another big thing for me is saddling my horse on my own and getting ready on my own. I really enjoy because if something goes wrong, whether it's like with my tack, equipment, anything, like that's on me, that's not on anybody
Right.
else. And it also just gives me some peace of mind. So I try to stay busy on show day because idle mind is not good.
No.
So I try to stay busy, whether it's cleaning stalls, riding other horses, just stay going so that I'm not just sitting there worrying. And visualization is a big one. Like, mapping out the perfect reining pattern and knowing when you come into the center, okay, this horse has a tendency to fall out of lead, so I need to hug that outside leg a little more. Just like thinking through all of those things so that you can be really present when you step in the show pen. So,
I like all of
And
that.
she's a good showman. I have 100% faith in her when she gets on a horse. Whether it's obviously I've had a broken foot the last 6 weeks, and she's shown some of horses that I've shown in the open, and um, I have had not a single doubt. I mean, when she gets on a horse, I always joke that she can show a donkey. She can ride it for a few minutes, figure it out, and
She
go.
kind of did in college.
And she did, and she is good at it, and she's taught me a lot about showing over the years. And
Yeah.
so,
She's definitely handy. I was in Winnemucca and watched her catch ride your horses with your broken foot. You've been kind of out of commission, but it's good to see you're back at it now. But um, I was so impressed. Like catch riding is such a talent. Like it's a whole other level of showmanship, and like to be able to just hop up there and make it look really
Yeah.
good. Like you made it look really good.
She has a lot of
Oh.
timing. She has a lot of feel.
Yeah.
We ride a lot alike.
Yeah, and
So
I think that's like more so for me, that's a testament to the training and the work that he's put into those horses to get to that point, you know? Because if they didn't have confidence to do their job, it wouldn't be that easy for me to just swing a leg over him and go do it. And so I think that is a huge piece of it. And our styles do complement each other well, and we work together well, and I think that goes a long ways. And like, some areas that I'm lacking, he's really good at, and vice versa. And so I think that balance like really helps us push each other
Right.
to
Yeah.
be the best we can be.
You guys are a great team, and but you are undoubtedly handy.
Thank you.
This
Very.
year, you actually won the non-pro two rein world championship at the Celebration of Champions. What an honor!
Thank you. I don't know if it's still fully sunk in yet. That was definitely a pinch me moment for
It still
all of
is.
us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
with the Voodoo Shiner Doll
Yeah.
horse that you originally started showing way back when, so
Yeah.
a horse that's come all the way through your program.
Yeah, that my mom bred
Oh.
and raised. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was a really, really special moment for sure. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into that for years, before getting to that point.
Yep.
So,
Tell me more about your experience down there at the Celebration of Champions
yeah.
and what that was like for you.
I would say it was a pretty unique one. So getting ready for the show, and when we kind of decided that I wanted to go, Cody knew that he was going to go to Arizona for the Sun Circuit, and those I'm pretty sure overlapped with each
Yeah.
other. And so he was like, "Well, if you go, you're on your own," and I was like, "What?" But then I just couldn't get past like I wasn't going to sit out just because he couldn't be there, even though it was going to be difficult to not have him there. And so we kind of talked it through and decided that my mom and I would go to Texas. And then I think maybe a day or two after we got home or on our way home, he was on his way to Arizona with a pile of horses. So I think we drove more than we were actually in Texas. I want to say we were there for 2.5, 3 days, and we drove for 4.
Oh, wow.
So it was a turn and burn situation. The prelims and finals were back to back. It was a Saturday, Sunday, I think, which is a big part of like why we decided to go, because it was close together and we could, kind of get it done in a quick amount of time. And I knew going into it how talented that mare was, and that I was on a horse that could compete with a lot of the best of the best. Like, and I had that faith in her. However, she is a lot of horse, and
Yeah.
she's really broken, knows her job, but you kind of have to let her be her and not get in her way or pick on her when she gets hot, and just like be the voice of reason among the chaos. So I remember when I got there that first night and unloaded her, I let her sit and, kind of acclimate for a while. And then I got on her, and she literally walked on her hind legs from the barn to the arena. And you just kind of have to let her do that, because,
I just told her just lawn trot her and let her be herself. Trust me, she'll have your back.
well, and when we got there, like she did that, but she just locked in. Like, she really is a show horse. And so going into competing, I just really tried to focus on being really intentional about every ride I had, and working to build her confidence and making it a good experience. Because I think it's easy, if you're only going to be at a show for a couple of days, to cram stuff down their throat and, throw a lot at them or try to do too much at once. And I think you'll have such a better outcome if you just show them a little bit, show them that being at a horse show is a good experience, not a bad, and then make it no big deal. And so that's what I tried to do. It was definitely very nerve-wracking not having Cody there. That was a whole new ball game, especially at that level. Like, we were at one of the biggest shows of the year for us, but I was really thankful that my mom traveled with me, and then my sister flew in and was there too. And they were there with me every step of the way. Having Cody not there was hard, like, to celebrate. It felt like a huge piece of the puzzle
Oh,
was
yeah.
missing. But having, my mom and sister there meant a lot. And yeah, I don't know where to start with like how it all went. The prelims, I do remember. I My rain work was pretty good, but I was a little safe. And my cow work, I just boxed for forever. And it still makes me cringe watching my video and seeing how long I boxed for. And I kind of ran out of cow. And thankfully, it was enough for me to get back in the finals. But the next day was the finals. And I probably watched my prelim run about 100 times just to pick apart every little detail and like how I could get half a point here and half a point there in the areas that I could improve upon, and what I could just make small tweaks with that mare to get more credit and get a higher score. And so that's kind of how I went into finals day. And I also told myself that I am on a horse that can handle any cow and any level of speed. So I'm going to bump that cow and go. And that's what we did.
it worked.
And it
she
worked.
took such good care of me. Like, I don't really have words. That was just so special. And at the end, like, I don't know if a lot of people saw this, but they blew the whistle and I was kind of petting her and she raised her head up and just whinnied. Like, it's like she knew, like, I did that.
I got it.
And she's just so special. Like, that mare has more grit and try than any horse I've ridden. And Cody's poured his heart and soul into her. And to be able to show people her talent and what she can do in her heart, it was really cool to showcase that and showcase all of the work that Cody has put into her. So it was very special.
Yeah. How much were you guys communicating about a plan of action in between the prelims and the finals?
I mean, a lot. I was probably annoying the crap out of him, and he's trying to deal with stuff at home, so it's not like things are slowed down. But no, I mean, I think as challenging as that was, it was
good.
It was good for me to show myself, like, I can do this, and he's given me the tools, and I have the tools to be able to do that. And I think sometimes we cast a lot of self-doubt and don't realize, like, oh, I do have it in me. I just kind of have to dig deep and be a little gritty,
Right.
I think it was huge for her confidence and to pack the trailer and to go down there and drive through winter and drive a big trailer through storms and like, I think it was good the way that it worked out. Because then she knows she can do it. And, I think when we go back to a horse show together, there's a lot of independence there between us. And obviously to be successful, I think that level of independence needs to be there.
Absolutely.
As much as we seek validation from each other, ask questions, I also think that can be unhealthy if you use it too much because you need to have your own identity. And I trust her, she trusts me, and
it's a big part of it.
I think that, I think she proved that to herself being down there by herself. And really the things that she was asking me on the phone weren't very big questions. They were just, tell me if I'm doing,
it was the validation.
tell me if I'm doing the right thing.
And he would tell me a lot, like, I think you know the answer. You just kind of have to, like,
I'm not there.
Look
you
inward,
know the horse.
Yeah.
So
she would ask questions, like that. And it's just like, you're there,
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah.
Well, what an incredible accomplishment, and so special being on a horse that has been such a part of your program. That's really cool.
It was really fun. And that helped her earn her Supreme Rein Cow Horse title, which it was the first of Cody's, which is really, really exciting.
Yeah.
So that was fun. That was a really fun moment.
Yep.
Yeah, that'll be a horse that you guys hold near and dear in your
oh my gosh,
in your foundation of your entire program for years to come.
We'll be starting. Cody will be starting her first baby this fall.
Oh wow!
So we're really
that's exciting.
That.
Yeah. You got to continue those great bloodlines when you can.
Yes, for sure.
Absolutely. So, if Cody as a coach, if you had one piece of advice for a non-pro competitor on show day, what would that advice be?
Ride like you're in a paid warm-up, because it seems to be when we all ride our best, and stay present, and no one can take that horse from you. You're going to have as many shots as you need to get things perfect, or what your definition of perfect is for that you and that horse. But this is your guys' hobby, and it should be, as much as we want to do well, it also should be fun, and that like I said, no one's going to take your horse away from you. So you're going to get another shot at it, and be present and
Yeah, all great advice. It's a
show what
terrible
you
feeling
practice.
when you come out of the pen and you can't remember your run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing.
That happens to
Happens to
trainers
all
too,
of
and
us,
it's happened to
yeah.
me too. I remember John used to say, and he'd get me every time when I first started. He'd say, "Hey, what color was your cow?"
Oh my gosh.
And you're sitting there like, "Oh crap, what
Like,
color
I don't know, I
was
blacked
that
out."
cow?"
Right? I don't even.
And he
It
would
had 4
always
legs.
smirk. Yep. He'd be smirking and get you every time. And now I'm always like, okay, I'm gonna look at this cow. Like,
That's funny. I'm
Be
gonna apply
present.
that the next
Yeah.
time I show. Yeah. The other thing I was thinking, I tried to challenge myself the last time I showed. I failed, but I was like, I wonder if I can be present enough to recognize what song they're playing.
Oh my gosh.
I
Yep.
couldn't.
Yeah.
I failed.
Yeah.
But I thought
Yep.
that would be an interesting exercise in mental practice to see.
Something to strive for, though.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Remember the color of your cow. Remember the music that's
Yeah.
playing,
I
and
mean, not that I wanted to let it distract me or deter from the pattern, but if
Yeah.
you can like just kind of like center yourself maybe for a second, I don't
Yeah.
know,
Yep.
worth a
For
try, I
sure.
think. But
For sure.
so Erin, as a non-pro, you've got the typical work-life balances to manage. So what is it that you do for a living, and how do you do the best of both worlds?
So I am in marketing, specifically advertising, and I work for a local Idaho company that's employee owned. We have, just under 100 employees, I think, and I have a small team under me. And I've been doing this for about 9 years, so right out of college, and it's something that I do enjoy and, have enjoyed for a long time now, but it's also helped maintain me being able to go to shows and pay entry fees and go down the road. And I don't know if I'll ever master the balance because that is something that I'm actively trying to figure
I
out.
don't think balance is a word
Exists.
that exists amongst this industry.
No, it's just like run yourself.
Get used to being broke, get used to being tired, get used to being dirty, and get used to being sore.
But it's worth it, for these animals and for what we get to do. Like the sacrifices that we make are so worth it. Like we are really blessed to be able to have what we do and have the animals and the caliber of animals that we do. And so that's really what keeps me grounded. But it is difficult. Like I am working a full-time job. It requires me to be in office part-time as well. And so a lot of times I won't get home until 7 o'clock at night. And I still need to ride my horse or get stuff done. So I'll come out here and Cody's already had a long day, but he'll be there to coach me and help me. And so it is very tricky, but I do feel lucky that I have a career that allows me to travel to these shows and do both. If you've seen me at a premiere event, you can just call me laptop girl. I like permanently have my laptop, carrying it around like a baby, always open, like working on the go. But I'm lucky that I can do both, because some careers don't allow that. So
Right.
that part of it works out really well. But it's a grind. That's for sure.
I know it's something a lot of non-pros struggle with. It's such an investment to go show your horses, so it's necessary to have that job that you're super committed to, but it's hard to balance the time and family and all the things
For
on
sure.
top of it.
I
So
have a lot of FOMO when I hear about different things going on here, and it's just little stuff. It's not even big things. It's just like you want to be a part of it all, and you can't. And that's just part of the sacrifice, but it's worth it in the long run.
Sacrifice is a big word because
Absolutely.
if you do this at any level, you're gonna sacrifice time missed with someone important, and that's where your phone becomes handy too. Call those people and be with them on the phone, and I think a lot of trainers probably feel the same way, but we spend time on the phone because relations are important and talking to your friends, but you don't always get to see them in person, and you miss birthdays and you miss weddings and you miss funerals, and you miss a lot of very important monumental moments in people's lives, including ours. And it's hard, and that's probably the thing that makes you question what we do the most is what you miss. It's not the job itself, it's just the parts that you miss, the vacations you miss, the um, you know,
Yeah,
moments like that. But
that's so reflective. I mean, I know I've had my own moments of struggle with that. Of every year on my anniversary, I'm at a horse show.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I mean? And fortunately, I have a family that's very patient with my career and my hobbies. But you're 100% right. Like with if you want to be a part of this industry, whether you're a non-pro or an open rider, you're going to have to make some of those sacrifices, and hopefully you have the people around you that will support your goals
yeah,
and dreams, so that you're not always letting everybody down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
and you need to make time for things other than horses too.
Yeah.
Um, there's this is a very old uh, way of life, and including some of the people I've worked for, that's they know ranching and ranching only, and they've grown up doing it since a kid, and it's okay to have a fun day. It's okay to do things other than ride a horse, and you
Right.
can still be successful and do that. But I think we've been ingrained to do nothing and show nothing other than being on a horse's back,
Yeah, be one track minded.
and
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
if you're working harder than this person, hard work doesn't always guarantee you success. And you can work 6 7 days a week and think that you're working harder than this guy and you deserve to win, but are you doing the right things on those horses, or are you just burnt out? They're burnt out.
Right.
You're going through the notions. You're not. It's doing the right thing on a horse and
Right.
being present. And the only way to be that present and do the right thing on a horse is if you give yourself and that horse a day off,
Mental health.
and spend time with your family and your wife, and nurture those relations. And we shouldn't be judged for that, and
Right.
we shouldn't judge each other for that. And
Agreed.
um,
On
it's-
that note, do you guys have like hobbies outside of this that you do?
we've done a lot of stuff. I think building this place has really eaten up a lot of that. I mean, I've done a lot of dirt biking. We've had a boat that we spent some time on our Sundays off.
I grew up
And
skiing, like being in Park City, so skiing I still love to do in the winter. I will say it's a lot harder, like since we're so, you know, encompassed by this, but it's worth it. But yeah, I think just
Yeah.
being, I mean, it's still just being outside doing adrenaline related sports.
Anything
right?
going
We're
fast,
adrenaline
anything with a
junkies.
motor.
Yeah.
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 Anything with friends.
Yeah, going on
and-
trips with friends. We have a lot
Yeah.
of friends in like the Salt Lake, Utah area, so it's really easy for us to just go for a weekend and like spend time with them and hang out. And
Yep,
so
wearing
great.
shorts,
Yeah.
flip flops,
Some flip flops.
work on that tan.
and
Yeah.
have some fun and not think about a horse for a few days. And
Yeah.
we do a lot of activities there that are outside of this. And it's kind of cool to be around normal people that are just, this is their everyday, every weekend deal, is
Right.
getting together and having fun. And it's cool to kind of separate and live that reality for a few days. Because although we enjoy what we do and we have fun with what we do, it is work.
Oh, yeah.
And there has to be a little bit of balance there. There's not really a balance, but there has to be some time for you
Right.
to realize that you got to have those moments with your friends and people.
Yeah. You got to give the brain and the body a rest every once
Yep.
in a while.
Yeah.
For sure. Absolutely. So, what do your guys' year look like in the upcoming year? You guys have any big plans in the future? Do you have an idea of which direction you're headed?
This year's been, and I'm not going to say, I think interesting is the wrong word, but first year in this facility, I've only been allowed 12 stalls at Annie's and Dillon's. So moving here, we've been able to grow our program and double it and even triple it, and welcoming some non-pros, welcoming new horses. We're also building new horses. So our show season really starts when those 3-year-olds get to be shown, because a lot of the horses that are in this barn have been trained by myself from a 2-year-old. And so there's horses that we've been showing, but a lot of what we have this year is starting later on in the year. And
Right.
it's just been cool to kind of just build that up and being patient about it, and being okay with its own timeline, and realizing that this is just the start of something new. And getting traction, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm very much at peace about it and feel very blessed about who we have and the horses that we have and the owners that we have, and knowing that you aren't going to be where you want in 1 year. It takes time, and so we're excited to just see what the year brings us.
Yeah, absolutely. Any specific shows that you're looking forward to or aiming for?
I think the futurity is always one we are excited about
Mm-hmm.
and focus on, and every year we either try to breed some or buy some, and train some to go to that. So we've got our eyes on that right now, and the between now and then is just really on where these horses are and where these owners are,
Mm-hmm.
and going from there.
So
And
if
that always changes
yeah,
very
I mean,
quickly.
this
So
whole industry is so fluid, right?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So if somebody was wanting to reach out to you guys and inquire about your program, what would be the best way to find you?
probably through phone call that you can find on Facebook or Facebook Messenger.
Mm-hmm.
Any form of Facebook Messenger or
Mm-hmm.
call or text would be probably the best way to get a hold of me.
Okay. And your Facebook page is Cody Hanson Performance Horses,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if I don't respond, it's because I'm on a horse
You're where you should be.
working. I'm
That's
where I
right.
should
In
be.
the
So
sandbox.
I always tell my clients, I was like, if you can't get a hold of me, it's because I'm doing my job, and I'll get back to you as soon as I get a break. So
Yeah, no, I get that. It's you can't be talking on the phone while you're going down the fence.
yeah.
No.
No, that makes total sense. Well, I sure appreciate you guys spending the day with us and welcoming us to your beautiful new facility.
Yeah.
And I sure look forward to seeing you on the road.
Thank you.
Thank you
This
guys.
is great.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I
it's
really
been fun.
appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Well, we're going to wrap up here. Thank you guys for tuning in to episode 3 of Non Pro in the Know. Thanks for coming along for the ride, and don't forget, use more leg.